I'll tell you my experience when we started investigative journalism, which was unknown in India. When we started investigating and publishing news item, people used to queue up to give you information because they know you will not sell that information. You will not betray the informer. What did the CBI question me for 3 days? How did you get this government document? Who gave you this document? They put me on lie detector test. They made me sleepless. But I said I will never disclose my source. Because my source is a very honest source. Some honest officer handed over the file to me. And all that the CBI wanted to know was, who was that honest officer who handed over the file to you? I could take all the problem. But if I had mentioned his name, his whole career would have been over. And he had nothing to gain. He only wanted the people to be informed of the fraud that was happening within the four walls of the government. So the journalist must be willing to protect his sources, whatever the cost. Are you prepared for it? Then you can go into journalism. Otherwise you can be that kind of journalist, as you see, the kind of promotional programs. This is also called journalism today. But if you are having something, for example, there are 20 students here. If 2 or 3 can be exceptions, that can make a huge difference. It is only exceptions who are needed today. I am not bothered about the entire media is like this. It will be like this. The Sun newspaper sells 5 million copies. The Times London sells only 5 lakh copies. The respect goes only to Times London. It doesn't go to Sun newspaper. Sun newspaper is a toilet newspaper. Everybody throws it in the toilet. But they like reading it, and there is advertisement, there is money in it. But that doesn't mean you get respectability. Respectability will go only with people who stand for something. And such a need is there in India. In fact, in the name of newspaper, you get a book every day. 60 pages, 70 pages, and if you fold it 4-way, you will get a 200-page book. That is newspaper today. There is a case for a 10-page paper today in which there is only relevant news. If you have an advertisement-free newspaper, there are people who are willing to buy it today. You need an entrepreneur to conceive a business model for that. You need a serious journalist who will head this enterprise. And in fact, when herd has taken the country to one side, there is a longing to get into another side, but you need a business mind, you need a business model, you need an entrepreneur, you need a missionary, you need a visionary who can give the alternative. The alternative need maybe only 5%. The Indian Express circulation was not the highest when it transformed the scene in the country. But it produced such stories, such original stories, such investigative stories, such courageous stories. The parliament could not ignore it. The other media could not ignore it. Because once you put an exposure in parliament and the parliament explodes, all newspapers have to carry what happened in the parliament, why it happened in the parliament. In fact, the Indian Express, we started something different. When some other newspaper did a job and the matter was taken up in the parliament, we began writing the name of that newspaper. We said the Times of India report was read out in parliament, as a result of which this happened. We shamed the other newspapers. Why don't you name the newspaper which has created this situation? You can change. In fact, even though many newspapers write, a newspaper which has said this, if it is a bad news item, they will say not this newspaper. If it is a good news item, they will not say that also. You are a journalist, you know how to put it. So, a broad-minded journalism resorted to by one newspaper can transform the newspaper scenario in the country. The same thing applies to the visual media. So, it is our assumptions about what the people need that is dictating the market. It is not anybody, nobody has conducted a survey as to this is what the people want. Even if there is a survey, it is such a meaningless, superficial, it's such a poorly sample-based survey with all the prejudices that goes with generating that kind of statistics. And we universalize it that this is what the people want. So we must also build a case for an exceptional media. I am not talking about an alternative media. Alternative media talks about the quantum. Alternative media, alternative approach to the media talks about the whole media beginning to take a U-turn. I don't expect a U-turn because nowhere in the world serious journalism is mass journalism. Serious journalism and exceptional journalism. Are we willing to be a serious journalist? Or are we willing to be part of the run-of-the-mill journalist is the question that is in the mind of a young journalist today. A student must decide, am I to become a serious journalist? Then you have to work hard. You have to study 10 hours a day. You have to study diverse subjects. You need to know about the country. Most of us become journalists without knowing what this country is, what its potentiality is, how this country is being viewed by others, what is the state of America, which some parts of it I explained this morning. So, if you want to become a snippet journalist, you can become, because there is so much of opportunity. 99% of the journalists today are snippet journalists. It all depends upon what we want to be in life. And because this is essentially an audience of youngsters who want to know what they should be. That's a decision which you have to take based on 3 questions. How much money you want in life? If you want money to enjoy life, to have the better and better car, you want to live in a better and better locality, and you want to have a lot of money, then you can probably not choose journalism. If you choose journalism, it should be snippet journalism. But if you feel you have to feel proud of yourself, that you have contributed something after 30 years, you look back to your life and see what you have done. It is not the balance sheet, it is not the bank deposits, it is not the cars that you bought and enjoyed or the club that you attended that is going to make you happy. It's something else which will make you happy, for which your mental preparation is not adequate for you to realize now. And if you want to be that kind of a person who wants to be satisfied with what you have done in life 20 years, 30 years later, then you have to be a serious journalist. And a serious journalist has to be a contented journalist. And he has to join an organization which will provide scope for serious journalism. And that organization may be a small organization. That organization may not allow air-conditioned halls, rooms. That may not be able to afford taxis for you to go and pursue news. But you must be willing for this hardship. And the more number of people you can generate who are willing to undertake this kind of enterprise, this kind of undertaking, then you will see an alternative to the current media emerging in the form of an exceptional media. Even today, why the New Indian Express in the south and the Hindu command credibility? There are other newspapers which has 2 times, 3 times the circulation. They don't have respect. It is because they are wedded to truth, fair reporting. Opinions may differ. I have very serious differences with the Hindu newspaper in the opinion, though I am very close to them. In fact, they came and invited me to write in their business line newspaper, knowing full well my views are entirely different from the views of the paper. So there are newspapers. Don't think there are no good newspapers. But I think there are lack of good newspapers in northern India, not in southern India. So there are good newspapers. There are still good newspaper proprietors. There are still good journalists and editors. But the unfortunate part is there is nothing in Delhi of this kind. That's the problem. And this has to change. And this will not, this can change on its own also. But we have also to bring about this change. And in this change, what can be my role? In fact, if there is a subject in your curriculum as to how to make an exceptional journalist, or how to make an exceptional media, how to produce an exceptional article, how to make the people look at something good with interest, not just something boring, how to write good things which will attract the people's attention, create their interest, trigger them further. This should be a subject of pursuit in which you can call experts who have specialized, people like Arun Shuri, to come and talk how they transformed journalism. Even now I would ask Arun, how are you able to write a 5,000 word article and make people read it? And I always used to tell him that people read only so much that if they read your article in the paper, they don't read any other part of the paper. because they don't have the time. But you can keep them attracted to your writing of one whole page article. That's the skill. And he writes a very serious subject. So it is not that you cannot become an Arun Shourie. You can become. The question is, are we willing to put in that kind of work? Are we willing to maintain only that kind of standard of living? Are we willing to join only that kind of newspaper which will not be able to give you a card? Which may not be able to afford conveniences, which newspapers which are nothing less than, I wouldn't want to use a strong word, which are nothing but selling their soul, selling their news, cash for news. Those organizations can give you a car, can give you a house, can give you everything that you want. This is the choice which you have to make. Even if 5 or 6 persons in these institutions make this choice, that difference will occur. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.